Here's something that'll mess with your head. She texts you back in seconds, remembers that random thing you said 3 weeks ago, and gets weirdly quiet when you mention other women. But if you ask her how she feels, suddenly she's just being friendly. Sound familiar? That's not confusion. That's strategy. And today, I'm breaking down exactly why women do this, what's really happening in her mind, and the specific signs that prove she's already emotionally invested, whether she admits it or not. Look, I'm not here to play games with you. As a woman myself, I'm about to expose something we rarely talk about openly: the gap between what we feel and what we're willing to say out loud. A fascinating study from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that women are actually 47% more likely than men to hide their true level of emotional investment in early stage relationships. 47%. That's nearly half of us walking around pretending we're less interested than we actually are. Now, here's what makes this even more interesting. This isn't happening because women are naturally deceptive or playing hard to get for fun. The psychology behind this behavior is way more complex and honestly way more human than you think. What you're about to learn will completely change how you read female behavior. Because once you understand the specific patterns I'm going to show you, you'll be able to spot emotional attachment even when she's actively trying to hide it. And trust me, there are some signs so obvious, so consistent, that I'm genuinely shocked more people don't talk about them. But before we get into those telltale signs, you need to understand the why first. Because without that context, you'll misread everything. Let me start with something that might sound contradictory. Women are actually more emotionally vulnerable than men in the early stages of romantic connection. Not weaker, vulnerable. There's a difference. Research from evolutionary psychology shows that historically women have always had more at stake in romantic choices. We're biologically wired to be more selective, more cautious, and yes, more protective of our emotions. This isn't some outdated thinking. This is hardwired into female psychology. So when a woman starts catching feelings, her brain doesn't throw a party. It sounds an alarm. Hold on. It says, we need to assess the situation before we go Allen. That protective mechanism kicks in automatically, even if consciously she's already decided she likes you. This creates what I call the attachment paradox. The more emotionally attached she becomes, the more important it is for her to hide it, at least until she's sure it's safe to reveal. Think of it like showing your cards in poker. The better your hand, the more carefully you play it. This explains why the woman who's truly falling for you might act more casual than the one who's just mildly interested. Counterintuitive, absolutely, but once you know this, everything else starts making sense. All right, first major sign, she remembers everything, and I mean everything. You mentioned once in passing that you don't like mushrooms. 3 weeks later, she orders pizza and specifically requests no mushrooms without even asking. You told a random story about your childhood dog. She brings it up a month later with perfect detail. Here's what's happening. When a woman is emotionally attached, her brain literally prioritizes information about you. Neuroscience research on attachment shows that when we're romantically interested in someone, our hippocampus, the memory center, becomes hyperactive regarding that specific person. But here's the sneaky part. She'll remember everything, but she won't let you know she remembers everything because that would reveal her hand. So she'll casually drop these references, making it seem random or coincidental. Oh, did you mention that before? I must have subconsciously remembered. Nothing subconscious about it. She's been filing away every detail like she's building a database. The woman who genuinely doesn't care. She won't remember what you said yesterday, let alone 3 weeks ago. So, if she's consistently recalling small details from past conversations, that's your first concrete evidence of emotional investment. This one's fascinating because it's where the won't admit it part becomes painfully obvious. She says she's super busy and doesn't have time for anything serious right now, but somehow she's always available when you reach out. She claims she's not really a texting person, yet responds to your messages faster than anyone else in your life. This is what psychologists call behavioral contradiction, when actions and words are completely misaligned, and it's one of the most reliable indicators. of hidden emotional attachment. Let me explain the psychology here. When a woman says things like, "I'm not looking for anything serious," or "I'm just going with the flow," she's often creating a safety net for herself. It's preemptive emotional protection. She's saying these things so that if things don't work out, she can tell herself and you that she never really cared that much anyway. But watch what she does, not what she says. If her behavior shows consistent investment, making time for you, prioritizing your conversations, showing up when it matters, that's the truth. The words are just the shield. A study from communication research found that in romantic context, women's nonverbal behavior is actually 4.3 times more predictive of their true feelings than their verbal statements. 4.3 times. That's massive. So when you notice this contradiction, you're literally witnessing the gap between her protective mechanism, words, and her genuine feelings, actions. Oh, this one's my favorite because it's so universally consistent. She claims you're just friends or that she's not that invested, but the moment you mention another woman, even casually, her entire energy shifts. The temperature drops. She gets quiet. Or suddenly she's asking follow-up questions. Oh, who's that? How do you know her? That's interesting. This was shocking when I first studied it, but research on female jealousy patterns shows that women experience jealousy most intensely in situations where they feel emotionally attached but haven't established exclusivity yet. In other words, the pre-relationship phase. Here's why. Once a woman is emotionally invested, her brain has already started categorizing you as hers on some level, even if she hasn't admitted it to you or fully to herself. So, when another woman enters the picture, it triggers a territorial response that she can't fully control, but she can't express that jealousy openly without revealing her attachment. So, it comes out in subtle ways. Tone changes, subject changes, casual questions that are anything but casual, or sudden disinterest in the conversation. Some women go the opposite route. They'll pretend to be extra supportive. Oh, you should totally go out with her. She sounds great, but the delivery is just slightly off. There's an edge there, a forced cheerfulness. The woman who genuinely isn't attached, she won't care. She might even actively try to set you up with someone else because she's looking for an exit. But the woman who's hiding her feelings, that jealousy response will leak through the cracks every single time. Here's something most people miss. When a woman is emotionally attached but won't admit it, she'll initiate contact, but she'll do it in ways that maintain plausible deniability. What does that mean? She won't text you, "I miss you," or "I was thinking about you." Instead, she'll send you a meme with "this reminded me of you," or she'll ask a question she definitely already knows the answer to, or she'll forward you an article about something you mentioned once. These are what I call low-risk, high-contact strategies. She's creating opportunities to interact with you without exposing how much she actually wants to talk to you. Communication pattern analysis shows that women who are emotionally invested but protecting themselves will maintain consistent contact, but they'll frame it as circumstantial rather than intentional. I just happened to see this. I was just wondering, quick question. Nothing just about any of it. The frequency is the giveaway. If she's just happening to reach out multiple times a week, that's not coincidence. That's consistency. And consistency requires care. Compare this to a woman who's genuinely casual about you. She'll go days or weeks without initiating because you're simply not on her mind. That much. But the attached woman, you're occupying mental real estate, and she needs to maintain that connection, even if she's doing it under the guise of random or practical reasons. This one's subtle, but once you know to listen for it, you'll hear it everywhere. A woman who's emotionally attached will accidentally use future-oriented language. Even when she's claiming to keep things casual, she'll say things like, "When you finally try that restaurant," or "Next time we should," or "You'd love this place, I know we have to go sometime." When next time we have to. Those aren't the words of someone who's uncommitted. Those are the words of someone who's already mentally written you into her future. Linguistic analysis of romantic communication patterns found that future tense language is one of the earliest indicators of emotional commitment. And it often appears in speech before the person is consciously aware of their own attachment level. So she might be telling you she's not sure where this is going while simultaneously making plans that assume continuity. Her conscious mind is playing it safe, but her subconscious mind is already building a timeline with you in it. Pay attention to those slips. They're windows into her real emotional state. Here's one that sounds contradictory at first. A woman who's emotionally attached but won't admit it will test your emotional availability more than someone who's openly interested. She'll ask seemingly casual questions about your past relationships. She'll gauge how you talk about your ex. She'll probe into what you're looking for, how you handle conflict, whether you're the type to communicate or shut down. These aren't random conversations, they're reconnaissance missions. Why? Because if she's already emotionally invested, she needs to know if that investment is safe. She's essentially doing due diligence before she reveals her hand. The more attached she is, the more thorough the investigation. A woman who doesn't care much won't bother with these deep dives. But a woman who's catching feelings, she's building a risk assessment profile. And here's the thing, she's doing this while simultaneously acting like she's not that serious about you. So you get these profound relationship-oriented questions followed by, but yeah, I'm just keeping things light right now. The questions reveal her truth. The disclaimer is her protection. So why do women do this? Why the elaborate dance? It comes down to one core thing: emotional safety. Research from attachment theory shows that women who have experienced previous emotional hurt, rejection, or vulnerability are significantly more likely to guard their feelings in new connections. And let's be honest, most adult women have experienced at least one of those things. So when she meets someone she actually cares about, the stakes feel higher. There's more to lose. And the protective mechanism isn't about manipulation. It's about survival. Emotional survival. She's not trying to play games with you. She's trying not to get hurt while simultaneously hoping this might be different. Here's what all of this really means. If you're seeing these signs, the detailed memory, the behavioral contradictions, the jealousy tells, the subtle initiatives, the future language, the emotional tests, you're not dealing with someone who's indifferent. You're dealing with someone who cares more than she's ready to show. And that actually puts you in a powerful position, not to manipulate, but to create safety. Because the thing about emotional attachment that women won't admit is this: we're waiting for proof that it's safe to admit it. We're waiting for signs that you're not going to weaponize our vulnerability or disappear the moment we show you how much we care. So if you recognize these patterns in someone, the most effective thing you isn't to call her out or pressure her to confess. It's to create an environment where emotional honesty feels less risky. Be consistent. Be clear about your own interest. Be the kind of person who rewards vulnerability, not someone who exploits it. That's how you bridge the gap between what she feels and what she's willing to say. Now, here's something that connects directly to everything we just talked about. If you want to understand the other side of this dynamic, specifically what women are actually noticing about you before they even develop these feelings, you absolutely need to watch what's coming on your screen right now. The video about the 5 body parts women instantly notice in men over 60 is essential viewing because it reveals the initial triggers that create attraction in female psychology. And here's why that matters. Before she gets emotionally attached, before she starts exhibiting these protective behaviors, something had to catch her attention first. That video breaks down exactly what those initial attraction points are, backed by research on female visual processing and math selection. This isn't just bonus content, it's actually the prequel to what you just learned. You now understand what happens when she's already attached. That video shows you what happens before attachment, what creates that initial spark that leads to all these behaviors I just explained. So click on that video right now, because understanding the full timeline of female attraction from initial notice to hidden emotional attachment to eventual admission gives you a complete framework for reading female psychology. And trust me, what you'll learn in that video about female attention patterns is going to connect every dot for you. The end screen is up. Go watch it now. You'll thank yourself later.